Last week, undecided voters came to this studio to put their questions directly to the leaders, and 3 of them returned to watch the debate. Dina Barakat, a consultant in legal tech and brand new Canadian. Marcus Harvey of New Brunswick, who's really worried about climate change, and Jessica Heron of Cold Lake, Alberta, a mom, school bus driver, and student. Armed with snacks, social media, comfy chairs, and a TV, they settled in.
Yeah, this should be good.
Where did you get that number from?
Did they just become best friends?
This is interesting, this little dynamic though, isn't it?
Please God you don't get a majority this time around
From
because
the
you
Rockies.
don't.
And so, the verdict. So a whole lot of talking, and there are a lot of crowded talking going on. First impressions, Marcus.
The talking, yeah, there was a lot of it there. Too many people on the stage. If they trimmed it down to the top 4, I think a lot more would have got said, a lot more would have been purveyed in a better manner than what happened there tonight.
You're nodding, Dina?
Yeah, it was really difficult to hear what they were saying sometimes when they're talking over each other, especially like Trudeau and Scheer at certain points. Like they went in a bit too hard, I think.
Do you agree they went in too hard?
I think it was embarrassing to watch them go at each other like that. It seemed like a bunch of children up on a stage.
Was there a moment, though, Jessica, that's still rattling around for you?
There's one moment that's really sticking with me is when Scheer challenged Trudeau about bending the rules regarding jobs, and Trudeau said that he is essentially protecting jobs, which that's not why he bent the rules. He bent the rules to protect a few thousand jobs in Quebec, but he didn't say boo when there was 150,000 unemployed in Alberta. So that one sticks for me.
You all came into this as undecided voters. Looking back at it now after this debate, would you still call yourself an undecided?
For me, yeah. Yeah, I'm still leaning towards Scheer, but the strong performance of Jag tonight really, he did really well. I thought he carried himself quite nicely.
It's Jag now, right? Not Jagmeet Singh. You've just shortened it to Jag.
Yeah, Jag, that's your new name.
What about you, Dina?
I'm focused on 2 parties, but also, if I can be honest, is I understand why a lot of young people choose not to vote. If this is what they're seeing, and like, I really understand those grounds now.
So,
sorry to say, I know it's
okay.
a privilege, and I should be like, everybody go out and vote, but I do understand, because I'd look at this and be like,
Who?
not even who, I think like,
But our candidates
why?
don't even treat it like a privilege.
Yeah, so-
It's a privilege, but they're abusing it, essentially.
You have used the sort of the disheartened word. You've sort of had the feeling of being disheartened. Certainly when you were speaking with the leaders last week, and you said something really interesting. You said you wanted to vote for someone who was going to cause the least amount of damage. Was there anything that gave you an element of hope today, or an element of, I could get behind that?
I do love how they're, like, everybody's talking about what's happening nationally. They're representing, like, certain parties are representing for the people, the suffering that's happening within certain classes of society. Also, I think once you're elected, though, it's going to be, how are you going to be able to balance what you're promising them? Because, like, it's very anti-corporations, or you need them. You're also going to be working to serve them. So I'm not an economist. I don't understand all of that, but it just doesn't make sense in my head. Like, are you going to be able to execute all of this?
How are you going to pay for it?
How are you going to pay for it?
I heard laughter coming out of this room, a fair amount of laughter. What was so funny for you? Or was it was it sort of frustration laughter?
I think it was almost like a black humor kind of thing. Like, it was so gross, and we had to find a way to make fun of it somehow. So we were treating it like it was just pure entertainment instead of a political main stage.
How will this land at home for you in Cold Lake? For your friends, for your colleagues who might be watching tonight, how will this land?
The debate? I'm not sure how many people actually watched the debate.
Are you suggesting that it's so uninteresting that people won't vote? I mean, do you think that there's an enthusiasm gap for this election?
I think that's what we just saw is a huge reason why people don't go out and vote, because that's not what Canada represents. That's not what we stand for. And to watch 6 adults stand on a stage pointing fingers and name calling is gross. We're not American politics, so why would we elect somebody like that?
And there was the confusion too of 6 of them being there. Like I said, if there was only 4, a lot more would have got covered, and maybe it wouldn't have been as mired as it was. But yeah, it was, a little messy.
What about where you live in New Brunswick? How will this land there?
As far as playing in New Brunswick, we just got rid of a Liberal provincially as our premier. We've got a Conservative in there now. And, the Maritimes tends to be Liberal, but after this, like we've been saying, it was just such a mess. Like, out of all of this tonight, and I think I was on social media, and I said to, my friends, I said, you're watching it, what are you saying? What are you seeing? And Jagmeet Singh, through my friends anyway, which are a lot of them in New Brunswick, seemed to kind of come ahead as the most
professional. He held diplomatic. He held himself really well. He's like, okay, I think he knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
To the right of him, but he held himself really well.
Dina, what do you need to hear in the next 2 weeks? Because there's still time.
Oh, I haven't heard anything about foreign affairs or what they're intending to do with what's going on outside of our borders that's going to impact all of these projects and all of these things that you're going to do. I'm not looking to hear I think I'm looking for the party that will acknowledge the complexity of it. That's courage for you to say the situation is terrible or the situation is whatever word you want to use, but just acknowledge it for the voters you want to get. And then I'd be like, okay, at least you recognize that. But if you're just not going to talk about it and be like, we're going to be able to do all of this, and there's nothing over there for us to worry about, that's concerning.
And what do you need to hear, Jessica?
My key values, jobs in Alberta and climate crisis aren't, those two views for me don't align with any one party still. So I need to find my little niche of where I fit.
There's still a little bit of time, but not that much.
Yes, and if Mr. Singh, I know he said no Trans Mountain, that's going to piss off a lot of people, but the world is changing. And if we want to keep up with it, we need to change as well. So if he says, you know what, we're going to cancel Trans Mountain, we're still going to keep oil going until we have an alternate resource. And once that resource comes along, we're going to train Alberta oil workers and transition them, then he would have my vote in the bag, for sure.
One last thought. What would each of you say to the leader that you spoke with last week? You spoke with Andrew Scheer. What would you say to him?
I think as we go into the end of this, I would tell him to listen to the people of Canada. Maybe, there's a lot of, there were some underlying comments in there from other leaders towards him about his faiths and beliefs. Kind of pull back from that. Keep your core Christian values, use that as your moral compass. But as far as your beliefs and your opinions, don't let that dictate policy, and don't let it tread upon, the rights of hard-fought battles that have already been won by minorities and people that have been held down so far. And don't be such a robot. He just kind of faded. We discussed that. He just was all in his head already. He knew what he was going to do, and he just kind of blended into the crowd.
Dina, you still look disheartened, arms crossed. What would you say to Jagmeet Singh?
I'd say keep going. I think for my questions that I relayed, I don't think any of the leaders would have answered a direct answer, any of the politicians. So best of luck, I guess.
You are going to vote?
Oh, definitely. I'm using this opportunity. I'll wait 30 years.
And Jessica? You spoke with a Liberal leader, Justin Trudeau.
I would, if he gets reelected, I would like to remind him that he works for us. We elected him. Right now, we are interviewing him for the job of Prime Minister of Canada. And if he is elected, he works for us. He doesn't work for the Liberal Party. He doesn't operate in the best interests of the Liberal Party. He operates in our best interests, and he needs to listen to what people across Canada are saying when he's making decisions, and not what people in his cabinet or in his party are telling him.
All right, Jessica, Dina, Marcus, thank you very, very much. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you leaving some snacks behind.